Sorry, but we don't accept walk-ins at this restaurant. The voice floated out calmly, evenly, the kind of voice only someone who's completed a luxury service training seminar could master. But if you listened closely, there was something else underneath, as if each word had been lightly dusted with a spoonful of condescension. The manager stood tall behind the host's stand, a sleek black suit pressed to perfection. Her blonde curls coiffed like she'd stepped straight out of a fine dining magazine, pinned to her blazer, a gold name tag, polished and prominent. Lauren Bennett, General Manager. Standing before Lauren was a black woman in her early 40s, wearing a faded navy hoodie, an old baseball cap, and unbranded sneakers. And most importantly, no reservation. "This is Ellis Co." Lauren continued, her smile stretching half a centimeter wider. "It's not really the kind of place where people just drop in for a bite." She gently slid the menu aside, tilting her chin ever so slightly, a silent cue. "Exits that way, to the left." The woman said nothing. She simply tilted her head, her gaze calm, too calm. Lauren frowned slightly. She wasn't used to patience. Most people without a reservation would panic at rejection or flare up in anger. But this woman, she just watched, as if waiting to see what Lauren would do next. From behind the host stand, a young server muttered under his breath, "She probably thinks this is some corner sandwich shop." Another chimed in, voice barely audible but just loud enough. "Dressed like she's headed to the farmer's market, and walks into Ellis?" A few quiet snickers followed. A sigh, the soft clink of a spoon tapping against a porcelain cup. No one knew that laugh would soon be the sound that sent them out of a job. Because the woman standing there, the one they thought was some random walk-in, some poor soul who'd wandered into the wrong kind of place, was Monica Ellis, founder, CEO, and owner of Ellis Co, the culinary empire that stretched from New York to Miami. The very restaurant they were standing in, with its imported oak flooring and Italian chandeliers, was one of Monica's flagship locations. But no one recognized her, and that was exactly what Monica intended. Today, she didn't come as the CEO. No PR manager clearing the way. No luxury car parked at the curb. Just a middle-aged woman in simple clothes, walking into a place she built with her own hands only to be shown the door by her own staff. She came to find out what happens when she's not around. She came to feel what the reports don't show. Was the service atmosphere truly as welcoming as promised? Were guests treated equally, regardless of skin color, social status, or clothing? And most importantly, she wanted to see the truth, unfiltered by emails and meeting summaries. Today, she saw it. With her own eyes, every single detail. Monica quietly pulled out her phone. A few clean lines of text lit up the screen. She snapped a photo of the host's stand, then powered it off. No anger, no fluster, just a fleeting smile, like a breeze. And then she took a seat in the waiting chair near the door, right beneath a silver-framed photo on the wall. A large portrait, proudly displayed. It was of her, Monica Ellis, CEO of the Year. The woman in the picture beamed, standing beside a $75 plate of smoked salmon. And sitting right beneath that photo was Monica herself, in the flesh, turned away. in a restaurant, bearing her name. No one recognized her, but they would soon, and nothing would ever be the same again. No one in the restaurant that day knew that the woman in the hoodie had once washed every single dish in that very kitchen, back when this place didn't even carry her name. Monica Ellis was born on the south side of Chicago, in a neighborhood where the shriek of city buses often drowned out her mother's call to breakfast. She grew up with peanut butter sandwiches for breakfast, and a dream that one day, just once, she'd have enough money to eat at a real restaurant. At 17, Monica landed her first job at a small French bistro in the neighborhood. She wasn't hired as a waitress. She didn't get to work the counter. She wasn't allowed to interact with guests. She washed dishes. And she loved it. While others complained about the sting of harsh dish soap, Monica used every spare second to sneak glances at the kitchen menu tacked to the back wall, scribbling down ingredients into an old notebook. She practiced pronouncing the word bouillabaisse long before she ever tasted it. "You want to be a chef or something?" an Italian head cook once teased, watching her fumble through carrots after her shift had ended. She just smiled and kept peeling. 10 years later, Monica opened her first restaurant with a bank loan, a gift from a lifelong friend, and everything she had secretly learned in that kitchen long ago. Ellis Co was born like a dream come true, with the soul of French cuisine, the heart of America, and the ambition of a black girl once turned away from a kitchen for being not front-of-house material. She didn't have a diploma from Le Cordon Bleu. She didn't go to Harvard, but she had the palate of perseverance, the instincts of a survivor, and the heart of someone who had once been deeply, painfully underestimated. Over the next 15 years, Monica opened 19 more locations. She won 2 Best New Chef awards, and Forbes called her the most powerful woman in F&B you've never heard of. She built one non-negotiable rule into every location. Every guest who walks through the door must be treated like the most important person in the room. And today, when Monica, wearing an old hoodie, walked into her own flagship restaurant and was turned away at the door, she knew someone had broken the rule. Someone had forgotten who they were working for. And Monica, she hadn't forgotten. She sat there in the waiting chair just like she once sat in the bank lobby while applying for her first loan. The only difference this time was that she wasn't waiting for someone to approve her dream. She was waiting for Judgment Day for her own employees. A soft ting came from her phone. Diane had entered the kitchen. The internal camera system had been activated. Everything was ready. The message was from Raymond, Monica's director of operations, the only person who knew she would be coming today, in disguise, as a stranger. Monica closed the phone and looked up, her gaze locking on the host stand where Lauren was glancing sideways at her, completely unaware that a storm was about to tear through her expensive blazer. Monica remained seated, her eyes drifting calmly across the room to the wall clock that was 5 minutes off, the dusty artificial lavender plant, and the cluster of staff behind the bar, whispering like they were gossiping about some petty theft that had happened in the kitchen. Lauren, the lunch shift manager, wore a crisp white blouse, not a wrinkle in sight. Her lipstick was so bold it looked angry. She approached Monica with the kind of expression usually reserved for unpaid invoices 3 months overdue. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but this table is reserved for platinum tier members. Would you mind waiting in the lounge area for, oh, about an hour and a half?" The words were polite, but the tone was a blade being quietly sharpened. Monica looked up, offering a gentle smile. "I reserved this table last week. The name's Monica." Lauren didn't bother checking the system. She looked Monica up and down the worn hoodie, the slightly scuffed sneakers, the unbranded tote bag, and that certain posture the kind Lauren privately called a nobody with a daydream. "I'm sorry, but are you sure you booked the right restaurant?" A soft chuckle came from one of the servers nearby. Someone whispered, "She looks like she just jogged past and wandered in." Monica nodded, saying nothing. She glanced at her watch. 11:47 a.m. The internal camera system was recording every expression, every word, every judgmental glance. Monica didn't need to react. She just needed them to keep being exactly who they were. Lauren crossed her arms and stepped back slightly, as if to signal the conversation was over. "I'm going to have to ask you to leave if you won't cooperate. This is a private space for confirmed guests, and—" She looked at Monica with a mix of pity and suspicion. "It's not meant for people who don't meet the standards." Boom! That line landed like a slap in broad daylight. An elderly couple eating salad by the window froze mid-bite. A young man snapping photos of his meal subtly tilted his phone in their direction. And Monica? She remained calm like a blank white plate, clean and quietly ready for whatever main course was about to be served. "What exactly are the standards at Ellis Co?" she asked, her voice steady as casual as asking for the restroom. "Is it expensive clothing or skin color?" Lauren flinched just slightly, but she quickly recovered her posture. "I'm not going to argue with you. I'm calling security." Right then, a soft ting echoed from the front entrance. A man in a security uniform stepped inside, still holding the half-eaten sandwich in his hand. Lauren waved him over. "Thomas, would you kindly escort this guest outside for me?" Thomas looked at Monica, then at Lauren. There was something in his eyes, as if he'd seen Monica somewhere before, in a framed photo hanging in the upstairs office hallway. "She's a guest?" Thomas asked, a bit unsure. "She's occupying space and disrupting the restaurant," Lauren replied, her voice lower now, but still loud enough for everyone to hear. Monica stood up. The entire room seemed to hold its breath. "I'm asking for one thing: to be treated with the same courtesy as any other guest. And if that's not possible, then I suggest you bring out someone with real authority to speak to me." Lauren let out a soft laugh, the kind of laugh people give resumes missing a college degree. "I am the highest authority here. I'm the senior manager. There's no one above me." Monica nodded, as if she'd just heard the final confirmation she needed. "That's a shame," she said quietly. She pulled out her phone, typed a short message, then put it away without another word. Lauren turned her back, exhaling like she'd just cleared a minor inconvenience. But she didn't get 3 steps. When the kitchen doors swung open, a black woman in a sharp black suit stepped through, eyes like blades. Diane Porter, Chief Operating Officer. The one person Lauren had never dared look directly at during virtual meetings. And on the tablet in Diane's hand was footage of Monica walking into the restaurant. The sound of her heels on the marble floor echoed like a war drum, each step pounding closer to impact. Diane Porter, COO of the entire Ellis Co restaurant group, never showed up unannounced, unless something was very wrong, or unless she received a short message. Diane, I'm at the flagship restaurant, and I've just been denied service. Period. No emoji. No complaints. Just a message from the one person in the company Diane never made wait for a second text. Lauren, still adjusting her collar in the mirror, froze the moment she saw Diane walk in. A few nearby staff members stiffened, as if disaster had just entered the room. Thomas. The security guard looked like he wanted to vanish entirely. Monica sat there, calm, legs crossed, lifting her glass of water for a quiet sip, as if enjoying the opening act of a show she'd seen coming. Diane didn't greet anyone, didn't ask, didn't circle around. Who denied service to the black female guest seated at table 4? Her voice rang out cold as forged steel. Lauren stepped forward, trying to steady her breath. I think there was a slight misunderstanding. The guest didn't have a reservation, and we were holding the space for our premium clients. Ah, I see. Diane gave a small nod, then raised the tablet in her hand, which was already playing the full security footage from 10 minutes ago. No cuts, no edits, no Instagram filters. Lauren's voice on the recording. Are you sure you didn't book the wrong restaurant? The sound of staff chuckling. And clear as day, Monica, in a hoodie, being bluntly turned away. The air in the restaurant suddenly thickened as if someone had just sucked all the oxygen out of the room. Lauren went speechless. Thomas swallowed hard. A male guest mid-soup let his spoon slip into the bowl. Clink, like a cue for the next act. Diane stared straight at Lauren, unblinking. Do you know who that guest is? Lauren blinked. Part of her brain was desperately scanning her memory. Another part was whispering, Don't say it. No, it can't be. That is Monica Ellis, founder, chairwoman, and sole owner of the entire restaurant group you're managing today. Lauren turned pale. She stepped back half a pace, her fingers tightening instinctively around her service cloth. A young bartender muttered under his breath, Wait, Ellis in Ellis Co. Auntie is her. Diane turned to Monica, her voice softer now, but her eyes still sharp enough to slice through air. I apologize for this completely unacceptable experience, especially here at a place that bears your name. Monica set her water glass down on the table and nodded. I don't want any other gesture employee to go through this again. Diane gave a slight nod, then turned around. Lauren, you don't need to apologize to me. But you should apologize to your boss. Lauren's mouth went dry. I didn't know. Exactly. And that not knowing is precisely why your 8-year career with this company ends here. The room erupted. A few customers clapped. Not loud, not dramatic, but real. Monica rose from her seat. We're not done. No one knew whether to expect a reckoning or a rebirth. Monica didn't sit back down. She stood tall, stepped toward the front counter where every eye in the room was now locked on her. Glass still in hand, her voice rang out soft, but as clear as a church bell. I used to think that if I wrote the rules and put them on the wall, people would follow them. But maybe I was wrong. Diane had now opened her tablet, not just the video footage, but the internal performance reports from the last 6 months. "You know what's interesting?" she began, eyes scanning the data. "The percentage of white guests seated within 3 minutes at this location, 92%. Asian guests, 73%. Black guests," Diane paused, 42%. A faint gasp came from somewhere behind the staff station. Monica stepped forward, pulling a single sheet of paper from her coat pocket, a printed report from a recent anonymous customer experience survey. One she had conducted herself. She held it up and read aloud. "The staff looked me up and down when I tried to place an order. When I asked about vegetarian options, they replied, 'We don't serve cheap food here.' I wasn't angry. I was sad. Because on the window outside it still says, 'Ellis Co, where every guest is a VIP.'" The room went still. No one breathed. Lauren stammered, "That's just a few isolated incidents. They don't represent the whole team." Diane raised an eyebrow. "Isolated? Then why is it that the West Side branch, where Monica once personally oversaw operations, shows zero disparity between customer groups? Why is the staff complaint rate at this location 3 times higher than the others?" Monica slowly placed her glass down on the counter. Her voice remained steady flow, composed. But no one dared interrupt. "When I was 19, working as a server, I once ignored a woman because I assumed she wouldn't tip. Turns out, she was the president of the investment fund that helped me open my first restaurant. That day, I made a vow. If I ever became an owner, no one would ever be judged by their hoodie or their skin." Diane nodded. "And today, we failed." She turned to the staff. "But failure doesn't mean the end. It means the beginning of real change." Lauren lowered her head. Richard, the host, said nothing, but quietly let go of the order slip in his hand. Monica looked directly at them, but her voice now carried no anger, only disappointment. "If you can't treat guests equally, then you no longer deserve to wear my name on your chest." Silence. A stillness that made space for the weight of judgment. No more clinking silverware. No more robotic greetings. The entire restaurant seemed to hold its breath. Monica, with that same calm gaze, looked straight at Lauren, the head hostess who just moments ago had called her a freeloader. "Lauren, you're the first person guests see when they walk in, and the reason many of them never come back." Lauren flushed bright red, her lips parted, ready to explain, but Monica lifted a hand. "I've seen the footage. I've heard the words. I witnessed the way you discriminated. You're not being dismissed for what happened today. You're being dismissed for the culture you've instilled in this team." The sentence dropped like a gavel slamming down. Diane stepped forward and pulled an envelope from her briefcase, a pre-signed termination letter. Lauren stood frozen. No protest, no words, just a bowed head, trembling hands receiving the envelope as if it weighed an entire career. Monica turned to Richard, the smug server who had been smirking since the moment she walked in. "Do you remember when I asked for an oil-free salad? You brought me one, with a bottle of ranch on the side, and then joked, 'Gotta try harder if you want to lose weight.' I didn't say anything that day because I wanted to see just how bad you'd get when you didn't know who I was." Richard went pale. I was just joking." Joking? Monica raised an eyebrow. Then, why did the guest at table 7 walk out in silence yesterday and send us an email today titled, "I've never been body-shamed by a server before"? You're not being fired for a joke. You're being fired for not knowing when to stay silent. Mark, the night shift manager, had been standing with his arms crossed the entire time, trying to maintain composure, until now, when he broke. I wasn't involved. I'm not even on duty today. Monica looked at him, smiling gently. True, but you're the one who signed off the schedules, the one who approved weekly reports that always said no issues, the one who received complaints from new hires and replied with 3 words: suck it up. So no, Mark, you're not being fired for standing by. You're being fired for turning a blind eye. 3 envelopes. 3 people quietly walked out of the restaurant. No one spoke. Only the soft click of the closing door remained quiet, but echoing deep into everyone left behind. Suddenly, Monica turned to look at Isabel, the youngest, shyest server, the one who had poured her water at the beginning, and had quietly whispered, "I'm sorry, we're out of napkins." Isabel trembled. Her eyes were watery. It seemed like she was about to receive the 4th envelope, but Monica simply smiled. "You don't need to apologize. You were the only one who looked at me like a human being, and you were the only one here who did the right thing." Diane reached into her briefcase and pulled out a brand-new name tag. "Starting today," she said, "Isabel will begin training as a lead server. We need someone to rebuild this culture from kindness, not from titles." Isabel was stunned. She stammered, "But I just started. I haven't even memorized the full menu yet." Monica placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "The menu can be learned. Respect for guests that has to come from the heart." The restaurant overflowed with emotion. Not applause, but something deeper. A shift. Real, quiet, and irreversible. 2 days later. Press room at the headquarters of the Fork and Soul Restaurant Group, Los Angeles. The media crowded the room. Cameras, microphones, phones all pointed toward the stage. On it stood Monica Reeves, the woman who had been denied a seat in the very restaurant she founded, now stepping up to the podium. A white suit, no jewelry, hair pulled back. Her face showed no trace of anger, only clarity. She didn't begin with an apology. She began with a question. How many of you have ever been treated like you didn't belong in a place you walked into? Below, heads nodded, some eyes filled with tears. Last week I was denied service in a place I built with my own hands. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was that I wasn't surprised. The room fell silent, because that was the voice of someone who had endured for far too long and was still enduring. Monica continued, this time more firmly. I'm not speaking out to shame anyone. I'm speaking out to clean a kitchen where we've been sweeping the dirt under the table for years. We will change. The screen behind her lit up with bold letters. Fork and Soul commitment to restoring service culture, followed by a list of clear, actionable pledges. 100% of frontline staff to be retrained under the Serve from the Heart program. Employee bonuses and promotions to be tied to anonymous customer reviews drawn from diverse races, ages, and body types. Quarterly complaint data to be made public, along with a resolution plan for each case. Then she paused. Her eyes are serious. We're not doing PR. We're doing what's right. Because in a restaurant, no dish is truly good if it's served without respect. The applause that followed wasn't polite. It was personal. It was profound. In the crowd, there were faces that weren't unfamiliar. A woman who had once been turned away for bringing her child. A former employee who had been sidelined for being too quiet. A disabled diner who had once waited 40 minutes without a single word of acknowledgement. They were all there, living witnesses to a system that had once fractured and was now slowly being mended. At the end of her speech, Monica said just one simple sentence. I don't need people to remember my name. I just need every guest who walks into Fork and Soul to be called by theirs. Flashbulbs erupted. The speech was shared millions of times, and the hashtag #RespectFirst trended at the top of Twitter for 48 straight hours. 3 months later, a warm Sunday afternoon in Los Angeles. Sunlight filtered through rows of street-side trees. The scent of toasted bread lingered in the breeze. Monica Reeves didn't arrive in a luxury car. She walked. One hand held a canvas tote filled with books. The other hand held the leash of a grumpy pug named Biscuit, his wrinkled face clearly displeased about being on a diet. She stopped in front of a restaurant with a freshly repainted sign, Fork and Soul. This place belongs to you. Whoever you are. She didn't use the back entrance. She didn't notify anyone. And she didn't come in disguise like last time. She walked in just like any ordinary guest. Inside, a group of staff were clearing tables. There was light laughter in the air, the scent of fresh lemon, and a soft jazz tune playing in the background. A server Haile walked over. She didn't recognize Monica. No judgment, no hesitation. Just a slight nod and a warm smile. Welcome to Fork and Soul. Would you prefer a table by the window or a quieter corner? Monica smiled, pointing toward the table by the window, the same spot where, 3 months ago, she had been asked to leave because she didn't fit in. How about that one? Haley nodded. Perfect. I'll bring you some water first. Today's special is honey cornbread. You should give it a try. 10 minutes later. The bread arrived, warm and golden. The coffee smelled rich and comforting. Haley still didn't know who the guest in front of her was, but she served her with genuine care for no reason needed. Monica took a bite, closed her eyes. Not because it was delicious, but because, finally, she felt like she belonged. At the table next to hers, a middle-aged man with a dark complexion and a security jacket was being visited at his seat by a young chef. You doing okay, sir? I adjusted the spice level like we talked about. Let me know what you think. Farther down the room, an elderly Asian woman was dining with her granddaughter. A staff member gently added an extra cushion behind her back. No rush, no condescension. Monica sat quietly, watching. What she saw today wasn't on a payroll. It couldn't be included in a report. It didn't need a media campaign. But that was the greatest reward a CEO could ask for. Not profit, but a culture brought back to life. On her way out of the restaurant, Monica left a small note tucked beneath her coffee cup. No signature, just a line. Thank you for turning this place into somewhere I want to come back to. The end. If you enjoyed this story, leave a comment with the words, "Respect is the default," and share it with someone who might need a reminder that sometimes change doesn't start with outrage. It starts with an empty table and someone willing to listen.